So I just removed the front cab support brackets, both sides. The reason being is they're pretty rotted. Right where the bushing or the grommet sits, that traps a lot of moisture and salt and crap underneath there, and they rust out really bad. When I first started this project though, it looked like there were no front cab brackets, front support cab brackets available for this generation of truck. You could get the rear ones from a couple of different places, brand new set, but you couldn't get the front ones. So I got to looking, and the 67 to 72 frame brackets are very, very similar. So the top two mounting points go right to the frame. The shape and everything is correct. The height where the bushings go, everything is correct, but they're a little bit wider right here. So it's going to take a little bit of fabrication, a little bit of modification, but those are going to go right on there and replace the old 60 to 66 cab mounts that nobody says you can get. All right, getting ready to put this cap and fab adapter bracket on for the steering box. And he sends you this nice to scale template, and it tells you, so the blue, if you see on here, existing holes, there's 3 blue ones here that we're going to use to line up. So to help me do that, I have printed this off backwards, so I'll actually be able to look through the holes in the frame and make sure that I'm getting lined up really well also. So I gotta figure out which 3 they are. It's these 3 right here. It's this one, this one, and that one. So I'll line those all up. I'll tape this on here, and then I'll use a center punch and peen the frame where those go and start drilling the holes. Now this hole down here goes right over the edge of an existing hole. So that's going to be a little difficult to get done very well. I think what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to weld that hole shut and then just re-drill a fresh hole. Gonna go ahead and leave that hole and that one obviously until I get this and this welded up, and then I'll drill these 2. But now I have everything laid out. So things are moving and shaking out here in the garage. I've got metal dust and crust and rust and rotten metal parts and everything all over the place already. I'm getting ready to swap in this Squarebody front end onto this truck. But before I do that, I wanted to show you guys some of the differences between the two. They're really very similar, with just slight changes from 63 through well, considering that this ran in the Suburbans and Blazers all the way to 91, you know, they ran a long time. And in the beginning, they were making some changes periodically. So this 63 front end is slightly different than this. And one of the big changes that they made was caster. This front end is set up with kind of a neutral caster, and this had a little bit of a negative caster built into it to give it a little more of a little better feel. But this is a little better for a manual steering box, where this gets you a little better feel, but the power steering works better with it. If you've got a manual steering box, which was available, this is a little bit harder to turn than this would have been with a manual steering box. So there's some differences. I'm just going to kind of show you some measurements and show you some of those differences up close, so you guys can kind of understand the difference. Other big changes that kind of were gradually implemented, obviously this had drum brakes, this is disc brakes. I think the ball joints changed to a little bigger one like the Squarebodies have, I think in 1970, and then in 73 I think the tie rods got bigger on all of the trucks. So from 63 through 72, I'm pretty certain, but not absolutely positive, that the ball joint, or excuse me, the tie rod ends are all the same. And then from 63 to 69, I think they ran the smaller ball joints. And so there's a lot of variables that are small but make a difference in what fits with what. I'll just get you up close here and show you a few things. Alright, so I've got both of the front ends out in the open here now, and I can do a little better comparison on the caster angles in this top plate up here. This is a square body front end. Honestly, I don't even know what year it is. And this is the 63. So let me get you in here close, and I'm going to show you a couple of details. We'll start with the square body. First, I want to confirm that the hardware for the square bodies is larger than the 63. So they went up significantly in size. I think the 63 has 3/8 nuts and bolts in it, and these are half. So there will have to be some holes drilled out on the 63 frame to accept this. No big deal. There is also going to be a slight variance in some locations of these holes also. So that's going to take a little bit of work. These have the threads in them already, so you just put a bolt into them. So it'll be a little harder, especially with the suspension still attached, it'll be a little harder to locate those with a punch or something. These are pretty easily done. I'm expecting that I'm probably going to end up welding a couple of the existing holes shut and then drilling brand spanking new holes. But let's talk about the geometry on this real quick. So I want to show you this. So I'm just going to use this as a reference. So I'm kind of right through the center of this center mounting hole on the bottom, which this is the same pattern as the 63, it's just bigger holes, right? So right through the center, and you can see that the front bolt where the mount for the top control arm is, I pretty much go right through the center of that, right? Also pay attention to this angle right here. See the angle of the two bolts for the top control arm? See how it's leaned back quite a bit? Okay, now I'm going to take you over to the 63 and we're going to look at it. Here's the 63. So you can see that the holes are quite a bit smaller for the smaller hardware I was just talking about. Now I'm going to line up my square through the center of this middle mounting hole. Right about there. See how much further back the stud is for the top control arm? So that, I don't know, ½ inch probably equates to a couple of degrees of caster in the front end on the truck. Also, if you'll notice, which is probably hard to tell without being here, but this angle right here, this top control arm is not tipped down in the back quite as far. One other thing, let me check real quick, hold on. Just curious, but I think I already know the answer. So center to center, we got roughly 5 inches. Yep. This measurement, center to center, is exactly the same as a square body. So if you wanted to, you could, for whatever reason, put square body control arms on here. The only variable might be is whether or not the studs are a little bigger, and I can tell you by just eyeballing it, studs look to be the same between the two. All right, well, I think that's about it for today. Front end's pretty well in place. I've got a couple holes to drill still and a couple to weld shut and re-drill. The adapter for the steering box is, everything lines up real nice for that. I still have to deal with this side of the steering linkage, and who knows? All that's left is everything. So probably on the next video, I'll be tearing apart the rear, redoing the crossmember in the center, doing some updates back there, and starting to lay some of that out. But a little bit at a time, and before you know it, it'll be something pretty and shiny sitting here. Till next time, guys, take care.